VYEPTI is a prescription medicine used for the preventive treatment of migraine in adults. Do not receive VYEPTI if you are allergic to eptinezumab-jjmr or any of the ingredients in VYEPTI. Please see the important safety information throughout and at the end of this video.
Hello and welcome to the PowerShift video series where we have authentic conversations about living with migraine. We hope these conversations will inspire you to reclaim some of your power from migraine. I'm Lindsay, an employee at Lundbeck, and I got my first migraine when I was just 6 years old, and I've been living with migraine ever since. Today we're going to talk about migraine in the workplace. Migraine can seep into all facets of your life, particularly affecting your professional career or holding down a day-to-day job. So I'm excited to be joined today by three other people living with migraine. We have Leilani and Electra joining us, as well as Tom Dabberton, the CEO and president of the National Headache Foundation, who also lives with migraine. So I'd love for you all to introduce yourselves. Leilani, why don't you start out?
Hi, I'm Leilani, and I have been living with migraine since I was 5.
Hi, I'm Electra, and I've been living with migraine since I was 18.
Hi, I'm Tom Dabberton, and I first developed a migraine when I was in high school.
So we're fast forwarding a little bit to when we all kind of entered the career world. And I know we all have had a bit of unique experiences when it comes to living with migraine in the workplace. So Leilani, can you talk to me a little bit about how migraine has affected your professional life and day-to-day responsibilities?
I've had a variety of experiences in the workplace, from people understanding and accommodating to one job in particular that they had absolutely zero tolerance. I did end up losing every job that I ever had due to migraine. So I'm now not working, now just taking care of myself.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I know that taking care of yourself can be a full-time job and is in a lot of circumstances.
Yes.
Electra, how about you? What does your career path look like and how has migraine affected it?
Well, living with migraine means you need flexibility, of course. And I stayed at one job for 15 years because my supervisor understood and supported me, even if it meant that I would be coming in late or leaving early or out for a day or two, or could only work in the evening when I was feeling better, or had to make up days on the weekend. But she supported me through that journey. And so I stayed with her for 15 years because I was able to get that flexibility and understanding.
Tom, as someone who lives with migraine and, as we discussed, advocates for people living with migraine every day, is what you're hearing from Leilani and Electra a common theme throughout the migraine community?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most common causes of disability worldwide. And migraine causes what's often called presenteeism. So it's someone who basically is at work, but not able to function to the best of their ability or to the ability that their supervisor or their employer is expecting. Think about it this way. Migraine has an impact on more than just one person.
That's 100% correct. I know I grew up with a parent with migraine as well, so you see it reverberating throughout the family and throughout the workplace. So I've been lucky at Lundbeck to have accommodating coworkers and accommodating company culture. Tom, could you talk a little bit more about what people living with migraine can request from their employers to accommodate them at work?
Sure, migraine can often impact our senses. So while there's no specific or particular accommodation that can assist everyone, there are some very common ones. Things like maybe limiting the use of scented cleaning agents, or changes in lighting, changes in computer screens or adding filters, a dark, quiet place maybe at work, breaks from using a computer, flexible scheduling in regard to healthcare appointments, allowing food and beverage in workplace areas, storage and availability of medications, additional breaks, wearing of sunglasses. I do that myself many times indoors. Earplugs to reduce noise while allowing the employee to safely perform their job duties.
So, switching gears a little bit, Tom, what legal protections do people living with migraine have in the workplace if they need to turn to that route?
Sure, so there are really two key federal laws. And I want to stress these federal laws create rights. They're not benefits. Because it's a federal law, it's a right that's guaranteed under the law. So the Family Medical Leave Act of 1993 provides employees with a couple of key benefits. The first one is that it provides for up to 12 weeks of leave, and that can be taken either intermittently or in block form. It also guarantees that the employee's insurance continues as if they were at work, and they are guaranteed their seniority and also the ability to return to work from an FMLA leave. So there's a second act that you have to consider, and that's the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was actually adopted in 1990. And that act basically creates what's called reasonable accommodations. And the extension of the Family Medical Leave Act in itself is a reasonable accommodation under ADA.
Thank you so much, Tom, for that information. I think it's important for everybody to know the rights that they have in the workplace. And you mentioned that conversation with your employer. So, Leilani, what was that initial conversation with your employer like, and how did you know it was time to have that conversation?
I was working in education, and my very first day in the classroom, I had an episode, and it was quite impossible to be able to teach reading while having an aura. And so I was co-teaching, and so I had to let the teacher know that this was happening. So after class, I had an open period, and we went together. He actually took me to the administrator, and we had a conversation right then and there. And that was that was my last job. The job prior to that was where they didn't understand, and it was about a year in when I tried to have the conversation, which was my mistake. I should have had the conversation with them much earlier.
It can be really tough when you try to have that conversation and that you don't feel like you get the recognition or empathy that you were hoping to. But Electra, it sounds like you have had some better experiences, at least with one of your managers.
Yeah. My last supervisor, she was also living with migraine. So she had understanding, and we had a lot of grace for each other. When I first got hired on for the job, I had an open and honest conversation with her that I am living with migraine. And, I'm a hard worker, but there's going to be a lot of time that I'm going to be missing. And she's very open about allowing me accommodations. It was a really good experience, and it's definitely a game changer when you feel like somebody has your back and you're not so alone.
Yes, 100%. So, Tom, I know you over at National Headache Foundation have been doing a lot of work on this issue in particular. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the Work Migraine Initiative?
As part of our awareness and education platforms, we developed Work Migraine, and it's now available on our website free of charge to anyone that wants to access it. It's a comprehensive set of modules that basically help an employee understand the triggers, the impacts, and the treatment of migraine. It also includes some helpful resources for employers who often don't understand things like accommodation, or that they're not only required by law, but that they're actually beneficial to the employer and the employee, because they improve productivity and they reduce interruptions in the workplace.
So, Leilani, can you tell us a little bit more about where you are today and maybe what you might hope to do in the future? Migraine journey today?
Absolutely. With VYEPTI, I have more migraine-free days. I have the opportunity now to volunteer quite extensively with my hometown, enjoy a lot of what town has to offer, whether it's music night down at the local coffee shop or an arts festival in the park. Even more importantly, I get to experience my children and grandchildren where I had not been able to do that in the past. Whether it's playing board games on a Saturday afternoon with the kids or going to a volleyball game with my grandchildren. For my work possibilities, I look forward to possibly becoming employed again.
So, Electra, I hear you have some exciting news on the job front.
Yes. So let me tell you, since meeting my treatment goals, I took a hiatus from work to focus on my family, kind of get to know my kids a little bit because I never really knew them. They were just, other people living in my house. And we've been able to take trips. Most recently, I got to go to Vegas. That was crazy. Yeah. Never would have happened previously. And most recently, this last month, I started a new job.
That is awesome to hear.
Congratulations.
Tom, what would your message be to people like Leilani who are maybe thinking about coming back to the workforce after an extended visit or extended leave?
The key is to find something that you're good at, but also something that you truly enjoy, and most of all, to make sure that the job isn't making you feel ill. A person with migraine doesn't know when the next attack is going to hit. And one of the benefits of hiring someone who has migraine is that they're usually individuals that don't procrastinate. Since they don't know when that next attack is going to hit, they're usually, they tend to take things as a priority and get things done very quickly and very expeditiously. So that's something that maybe you want to share with your employer as a positive trait of having migraine.
I love that. I like that spin on it. Leilani will
true.
have to put that on her resume. So, what are some of each of your power tips when it comes to navigating migraine in the workplace?
So I would have to say be open and honest with not only your employer, but also with yourself. Try not to push yourself to make it up to people when you feel you're falling short. And evaluate your performance regularly. And if something isn't working, then maybe you need an accommodation, and that's okay.
Leilani, do you have anything to add?
I would also add into that, educate those that you're working with. Always go to work prepared as if today is going to be a day I'm going to have a migraine. And don't be hard on yourself. If today is a day that you have a migraine, because there's nothing you can do about it.
Tom, do you have any power tips to share?
Sure, I think a lot of employees tend to not divulge their status with their employer. And so, do employees have to engage their employer or divulge that they have migraine? The answer is no. But at the same time, if you don't tell your employer, then you can't expect accommodation. You can't expect assistance. You can't expect them to understand what you're going through. Empathy and understanding, as we said before, can only occur when one understands the problem.
Having that conversation can be like a bump to get over, but to your point, people can't accommodate and be empathetic if they don't know what you're going through. My personal power tip is that you should take your health into account when you're setting out your professional goals. And you can be a high achiever and you can be, reliable while living with migraine, but making sure my goals and expectations for myself are realistic and take into account self-care and and my migraine. So thank you all for tuning in. Please keep listening for important safety information about VYEPTI. We encourage anyone interested in finding out more information about migraine to go to headaches.org. And for those interested in learning about preventive treatment of migraine, please go to VYEPTI.com.
Please stay tuned to listen to important safety information for VYEPTI and visit VYEPTI.com to learn more about IV infusion for the preventive treatment of migraine.
Please listen as we share important safety information about VYEPTI. Approved use. VYEPTI is a prescription medicine used for the preventive treatment of migraine in adults. Important safety information. Do not receive VYEPTI if you have a known allergy to eptinezumab-jjmr or its ingredients. VYEPTI may cause serious side effects such as allergic reactions. Call your healthcare provider or get emergency medical help right away if you have any symptoms of an allergic reaction. Rash, swelling of your face, lips, tongue, or throat. If you have trouble breathing, hives or redness in your face. High blood pressure. High blood pressure or worsening of high blood pressure can happen after receiving VYEPTI. Contact your healthcare provider if you have an increase in blood pressure. Raynaud's phenomenon, a type of circulation problem. Raynaud's phenomenon can worsen or happen after receiving VYEPTI. Contact your healthcare provider if you have symptoms such as your fingers or toes feeling numb, cool, or painful, or changing color from pale to blue to red. Before starting VYEPTI, tell your healthcare provider about all your medical conditions, including if you have high blood pressure, circulation problems in your fingers and toes, are pregnant or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding or plan to breastfeed. Tell your healthcare provider about all the medicines you take, including any prescription and over-the-counter medicines, vitamins, or herbal supplements. The most common side effects of VYEPTI include stuffy nose and scratchy throat, and allergic reactions. These are not all the possible side effects of VYEPTI. Tell your healthcare provider if you have any side effect that bothers you or that does not go away. You are encouraged to report negative side effects of prescription drugs to the FDA. Visit www.fda.gov/medwatch or call 1-800-FDA-1088. For more information, please see the prescribing information and patient information on VYEPTI.com.